the youngster here in Korey McDuffie.
Surprising to see Korey McDuffie on no buys.
I'm a little surprised by that.
Plays
as well.
a fair bit of Magic, has had some tournament success, is an Atlanta local.
And he's very good.
Very skilled player.
Yeah. He's had success in Magic, I believe in other card games as well.
Yep.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is jumping to mind.
Yeah, I believe he has some huge finishes in that game. Not exactly my field of expertise, but I've seen some things pass along my timeline.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not your field of expertise.
Does not.
I am slightly surprised.
Well, I used to work at a card shop. I used to know. I used to know about everything. You know?
That's true. That's true.
Whatever Japanese trading card game you played at some point in your life, I know a little bit about it.
Okay. All right.
I know them all.
Fair enough.
But that was many years ago.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'm not on top of things
Your
now.
card ownership days, the ownership time of when you were owning the store.
Yes.
It's almost a decade ago, maybe?
More than that.
Wow. Wow. Korey likes to be on the draw, it appears. And that is one thing that you will see in Sealed.
Occasionally in draft as well. And I think this is a format that's much more conducive to taking the draw. Back in the day, it was a no-brainer. You always win second in Sealed because the cheap creatures and the early aggression just weren't nearly as good as the removal spells. Over the last couple of years, that shifted in Magic, and now taking the play is the more common philosophy. But these games can be very slow, and if you think you're in that kind of matchup, the extra card's valuable.
Andrew Hampton with a Fertile Thicket here. So there's the battlefield. You get to look at the top 5 cards of your library. If you do reveal one basic land card, then put that card on top of your library. The rest do go on the bottom, but he did not find anything. McDuffie with a Swamp. Ooh, a little Fathom Feeder action.
Card is innocuous, but very powerful.
Yes, it is. Here is a Swamp. And now we're going to converge here. So this is going to be a big one. That'll be a 3-4 to Jury Stalwart.
This is, again, at common at least, the big payout for Converge in green.
Oh, it's not going to hang around very long. Here comes the Ingesture. It was a complete disregard. That's going to exile the Tajuro Stalwart. Now Fathomfeeder will come in, a little Ingest. That'll exile a card. Actually, 2 cards exiled now past the turn back. So you can see just how easy it is to get cards exiled in this particular format. Complete disregard certainly helps.
Among the Grixis colors, it's very easy to do. Becomes a lot harder when we're talking about other colors.
This just got a little harder for Korey. What do you think? Maybe a little?
Gideon's rough. I mean, Fathom Feeder into complete disregard on the draw is about as good of an opening as you can ask for.
This is one of those times where we don't need the card imager.
Yeah, we know this one.
We know Gideon. Everyone knows Gideon, that's for sure. There's a 2-2 ally. And now we're going to head back McDuffie's way, and he has quite the challenge in front of him. Now, if you're thinking about Constructed, you're thinking, oh, well, just Ruinous Path that, Hero's Downfall that, but we are not in Constructed.
It's much harder to just get off the board.
Yes, it is.
And Control decks struggle with Planeswalkers in Draft, much in the same way they do in Constructed, and the answers aren't nearly as good.
So Andrew Hampton is in the driver's seat now. And his start has been quite a good one. McDuffie's start, obviously pretty good as well, but now he's in a difficult situation. So we're going to see if he can work his way out from underneath this Gideon. Most would say this is the card you want to open in this format.
The mana requirements are a little demanding, but yes. Doesn't get better than this.
Yeah.
Obnixilis very high on the list as well.
For sure. What's next here for Korey? Looks like he might go to the Sky Spawner. He is very methodical in his ways, and in a situation like this, you had better be. Mindraker is going to come in. It'll process a card which forces Hampton to discard a forest. That's a 3-3 on the battlefield. That'll do a nice job of checking the Night Ally.
I think McDuffie there could have played the Sky Spawner, which is a much better play in the immediate sense of threatening Gideon, but a 3-3 also does a lot to check Gideon and the tokens, and it's much more mana efficient.
Gideon's going to pump out another Night Ally. Keep in mind that it does make allies, which is a pretty big deal, assuming that there are other allies in the deck. Now, okay. A Woodland Wanderer. Are we sure we're not playing Constructed?
Is that fully charged up?
Oh, yeah.
That color number 4?
Oh, yeah. That was an island out there. That thing is a 6/6 Vigilance Trample.
McDuffie is very fortunate to have that Fathom Feeder.
Death Touch pretty nice right now.
Yeah, flying 2.
Okay, here's the Sky Spawner. That'll come in. It'll make an Eldrazi Scion with it. A premier blue uncommon in this format. The follow-up here for Korey is the Bone Splinters. All right, Wanderer down. That'll solve one problem. Bone Splinter's a very good card in this format.
Well, it requires a certain infrastructure.
Sure.
I think you can't just throw it into any deck, but if you have a reliable Scion package, if you have creatures that are good for sacrifice for value, it's a very easy include.
Back over to Hampton, we're going to go with his active Gideon.
But right now, as good as Gideon is, it's not worth a ton right now.
Sure.
There's a 3/3 in play on McDuffie's side. It's answering all the 2/2s. McDuffie is going to start to pressure Gideon in the air next turn, I imagine. Although that has just gotten a lot more complicated.
Yeah, the Griffin here is going to gain some life. It'll come in, it'll gain 2 life. 2/3 flyer as well.
Now, if McDuffie can answer this flyer, he can start pressuring Gideon, hold the 3/3 back on defense, and everything is relatively stable. But if he can't punch through this 2/3, Gideon will slowly but surely take this game over.
Yeah, the thing that Gideon causes, and this is what happens with Planeswalkers Limited, and one could argue Constructed as well, is you have to play a little mini game, kind of a sub game of, okay, I need to get Gideon off the battlefield.
Exactly. Right now, McDuffie, Hampton's life total is irrelevant to McDuffie. That is not a concern right now. The only thing that he's worried about is managing and or removing Gideon from the table. It's his only concern.
Well, what does he have now?
That's a Wind Rider Patrol, I believe.
Okay. 5 out of 4/3 flyer. When it deals combat damage to a player, not a planeswalker, Mr. Gideon, to a player, scry 2.
Though now, again, things are looking pretty good for McDuffie for the moment. That flyer is too big to block and trade with.
Yep.
So Hampton either has to chump block to keep Gideon around for a turn or let it go. And it's possible now that Hampton will pivot here and make an emblem, because then his 2/2s become 3/3s and suddenly they're eligible to attack. It means his 2/3 flyer becomes a 3/4 and then that's eligible to trade. And I don't know if Hampton can really hold on to this Gideon much longer. I suppose this is the other way of doing it, is plussing the Gideon and getting it out of the range of the flying attacks next turn.
Well, it's up to 5. And might be considering giving the beatdowns here. McDuffie taking a look at Gideon, wants to make sure he knows exactly what it does when it does plus. And this is a spot, I think, if you're Korey, you just take that 5 damage.
Yeah, there's no reason to block right now. All of Korey's creatures are very important. They're either flyers to threaten Gideon, or there are 3/3 on the ground checking a sea of 2/2s.
Yeah, the Mindraker's doing a nice job on those 2/2s. McDuffie will draw. Looks like Andrew Hampton starting to flood out a little bit here. But again, I think that flooding is going to be a little common in this format because we're talking about 18-19 land format.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through stages in mid games and late games where players are drawing lands. McDuffie, however, right now, he has quite a few spells.
It's a question then when you get into this spot of how many mana dumps you have and how many landfall things you have. Even though it's a mana hungry format, you can still flood out in the conventional sense. But a lot of seal pools are built with this scenario in mind, and that's where your Eldrazi, your landfall, your blighted cycle of lands, that's where this stuff starts coming in. Big turn here for McDuffie.
Now that flyer's got to get out of the way.
That is a Clutch of Currents.
Yep.
Many people would argue the best common in the format.
Sure.
And you see why here.
Gideon down, Clutch of Currents, return target creature to its owner's hand. You pay 5, you get to Awaken and get a 3/3 out there.
And Awaken is so powerful on Unsummon because Awaken covers you in most of the scenarios where Unsummon is bad. All your threats have died, you're flooding out a little bit, the game's not really about tempo. That's where the Awaken comes in and still has moments of being just a very powerful Unsummon effect.
Well, you play one Awaken spell, Korey McDuffie, I'll play my own, says Andrew Hampton. It's a sheer drop. This card coming into the format, I know many felt very strongly about its power level, pretty flexible, that Awaken makes it a good late game draw. I still feel the card's pretty good, but I think it was a little overrated to start.
I still think in Sealed, this is one of the cards you're looking out for. Draft, it can be much faster. The games are played at a different pace, but flexible removal spells that also hedge you against flooding out, like Sheer Drop does in this scenario with Awaken, they're very important cards in Sealed.
You saw the planes coming across for 3. Mindraker's going to block that. So now the 3/3 that was doing a nice job of blocking, that's off the table.
But McDuffie has another 3/3 at the ready with the land that he awoke last turn.
Yep.
Or awakened. What is, don't know.
What is...
You know what I mean.
Awokened.
Awokened.
How's that sound?
You know what I mean.
Four mana here for Korey. He's finally eliminated that Gideon. That's the discard spell. Wasn't sure how much play that was going to see here this weekend.
I think this is also a very important card in Sealed.
That is Myers Malice, by the way.
Very good against expensive spells. By the time you hit 6 mana, you're often going to be getting the last expensive spells out of your opponent's hand. And discard spells tend to be better in landfall formats because every card matters.
Yep.
The spells are good and the lands trigger a variety of stuff or enable some big plays. So Mind Rot effects are going to be better here than they are in most formats.
Back to McDuffie. Sky Spawner going to come across for 2 in the air. And Korey with that kind of innocent die on that island. But that's a 3/3 land. That's part of the reason you see Andrew Hampton not attacking. It's the real deal. He's going to sacrifice that blighted land, search us some lands here.
I really like the way that McDuffie has managed this game so far. I think that a lot of people facing down a turn 4 Gideon would have panicked and try to get the flyers in play as fast as possible and try to attack Gideon. But McDuffie knew with the 3/3s that he had available that Gideon wasn't going to matter for a while, that he could be mana efficient, slowly take care of Gideon and not play off curve, and that's exactly what's happened here.
Blighted Woodland goes searching for some land. You saw McDuffie's play of a Mist Intruder. Just another flyer on the battlefield. Working towards ingest and all that good stuff. Andrew Hampton cardless, looking for a big draw. And we know in this format there are plenty of them. Did he find what he was looking for is the question.
He does have a couple big plays in the deck. He's got a Bane of Balagad and a Breaker of Armies.
Sure. That's not either one of those. That's a Core Castigator. Just has to pass the turn back. Can't be blocked by Eldrazi Scions, but don't have to worry about that right now for Korey McDuffie. There's land number 6 for Korey. It's an island. Looks like the Flyers are coming to the red zone. I'll tell you, it's a tried and true strategy Unlimited.
And in this,
fly on over.
In this format, I think it's particularly important because the ground is so liable to get gummed up.
Sludge Crawler. Pass a turn back. Good on offense and defense is the Sludge Crawler.
Good on turn 1, good on turn 8.
Yeah, that's my kind of magic card.
This is another card, it's subtle, but this is another card that protects you from flooding out a little bit.
Yep.
Get a little bit more value out of your lands.
You can't forget about Ingest and Devoid, too.
Does a lot of good work here.
Yeah.
I think in Booster Draft, this is one of the most important cards. In Sealed, it's a bit different because, you know, who knows if you have a lot to facilitate this, but in Draft, we're going to see a lot of people taking that card early.
Fathom Feeder activation there for McDuffie allowed him to draw a card. There's another land. It's an island here for Korey, and you can now tell he's starting to pull away. And it is impressive, this game, where he could have went into full-blown panic mode when that Gideon came down, but he found a way through it. Mindraker certainly did help. Got the Gideon off the battlefield, and now we started to pull away with the game. We do have a spell here from Hampton, it appears. And it's going to be a plummet to take care of the Sky Spawner. But that's a momentary fix to the problem. Mist Intruder starting to ingest. That means if McDuffie has any processors, he's got plenty of ammo over there.
He's drawing 2 cards to 1.
Yep.
He's ahead on the board right now. 2 cards in hand and none. Very commanding position.
Shoulder Shrug, tap some mana. I believe that was the big overrun creature for green. But a counter spell there for McDuffie says absolutely not.
Yeah, spell shrivel there for McDuffie to answer.
Yep. Unfortunately for Hampton, not able to pay the 4 mana necessary
And I like McDuffie just offering up the trade here rather than taking the 3 points. With the Fathom Feeder in play, he's got plenty to do with his mana. There's no reason for him to leave the Sludge Claw in play, demanding that he leaves a lot of mana up to trade with a 3-1, or just to rather check the 3-1. So I'm fine just offering up the trade there.
That was a Tujuru Beastmaster that was countered there by the spell Shrivel. An island here from Korey. He's got a bunch of mana. 6 of it in the pool, it appears. And he says, you know what? I want to do some attacking first. I'm going to get in with this Awakened creature. Now, this is an interesting attack. That's been held back for a really long time. And we're going to see a triple block here from Hampton.
Well, it means McDuffie is happy with the current state of affairs on the board here if he's offering up this trade. I imagine there's some follow-up here. This is not just trading the land for a 2-2.
I would be shocked if there wasn't a follow-up. I'm just curious on what it is. We saw him consider tapping 6 mana before. Okay. Enter discard spell. He bored in the second one.
Makes a lot of sense against a 4-color deck with a big top end.
Yeah. Myers Malice this time being cast with Awaken. Earlier it was not. Hampton didn't have any cards in his hand, which is fine. But Korey was able to use Awaken to make another 3-3. And again, Awaken is another reason that you can play 18 or 19 or even potentially 20 lands in this format. A nice hedge against flooding.
Yeah, there's a lot of mechanics here that facilitate playing a whole lot of lands.
Korey going to take a look at the graveyard. He's going to come across here for 1. It'll ingest yet again. Will the Mist Intruder, 2 of those McDuffie's deck. There's a Mortuary Mire.
Mortuary Mire is a card I'm not a huge fan of. I think it's just a swamp that comes into play tapped a good percentage of the time. This is a very good spot.
Yeah. When you get into a situation like this is a pretty nice spot. Able to put a card back on top of your graveyard, back on top of your library. Creature card, mind you, not just any card.
And he gets the Windwire Patrol back, which is nice because even though McDuffie's certainly ahead right now, 1 a turn is a pretty slow clock.
Yes.
That's a lot of draw steps for Hampton potentially.
So we might see the flyer here, and it looks like we will here from Korey. There's a land. That 4th land gives him the ability to activate Fathom Feeder to draw more cards. He's in a good spot right now, is Korey. The Windwire Patrol down. Pardon me, 5 mana activation there on the Fathom Feeder. I apologize.
But McDuffie just wants as many lands in play as possible. When you have something that requires a lot of mana to draw cards, you don't want to be slow on your lands because you want to be able to draw and cast whatever.
Another Mist Intruder, doubling the clock. It's like a Kozilek's Chandler here, I believe.
It's at least something large enough to attack through the 3-3, but that's a pretty slow clock, and McDuffie has substantially widened the gap in terms of life totals, and Hampton can't answer the air right now.
So now we get a Fathom Feeder activation there from McDuffie. 5 mana, 3 colorless, a blue and a black. It also causes your opponent to exile the top card of their library. Flyers are going to come in. And I suppose, this is one thing we didn't really talk about in the pregame show, I guess that being milled out is an option.
Well, Hampton's getting chipped away 1 at a time, which means that even if he finds removal spells for the Mist Intruders, there's a lot of pressure on him to win the game quickly after the fact, and that together might be too much.
There's the Manta.
Creature dash fish. Okay.
One of your favorite things, the clock.
Not sure why. Whatever.
What would you like it to be?
I don't know, a drake or a bird or a...
Maybe Manta. Here come the beatdowns. The 2 ally knights and the channeler.
Yeah, there's a hero Gomafada, so this is a free attack essentially.
Yeah, creatures you control do gain indestructible.
But it took so long for Hampton to get an offense going here. That's a fine play here, and it at least allows for an attack, but the damage race is still quite poor here for Hampton.
Yeah, Korey's taking a look at how many cards left over there, and I think the answer may be 3. With the way those cards are spread out there. The 2 Mist Intruders will come across, and it looks like there's just 1 lone card. Yeah, Fathom Feeder's going to take care of that. And Korey McDuffie is going to overcome Gideon and actually mill his opponent out here at Andrew Hampton. Korey McDuffie wins this match 2-1. That blue-black deck actually looks pretty good.
turn 3 enabled Tajuru Stalwart into turn 4 Gideon into other plays, and McDuffie was able to manage it without having any bomb rares, really.
Yeah.
That was very, very nicely done. And like I said earlier, I like the way that McDuffie didn't panic early on in that game. He did not play off curve to get a bunch of flyers into play. I think that would have been a lot of players' instinct to try to fight down Gideon as soon as possible. But McDuffie realized he had the resources to manage it, and there was no reason for him to stunt his own development getting flyers into play ahead of schedule.
Yeah, very